Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investing with me, Richard Bexon, your host. Today, we've got a very exciting podcast here with Mark Jackson from Isthmus Real Estate here in Costa Rica. Mark has been involved in real estate and tourism for probably close to 30 years. I'm excited because it's everything from real estate to land development to tourism consulting. Kind of Mark's done it all. So it should be an interesting chat today. Remember, guys, if you have any questions for Mark or anyone in the future, please write them in the comments. And also, guys, remember to subscribe in the link provided below, okay? But anyway, let's get straight on with it and hope you enjoy it, guys. Hey, Mark, pleasure to be speaking with you today. How you doing?
Richard, good to see you again. It's been a couple of months since I saw you. How's the travel agency business doing?
Things are improving, thank God. You know, it was a bit of a rough few months back there, but, you know, as in 08 and 09, I think we'll come out of this stronger than we did before. So, you know, it's exciting times.
It's music to my ears. I very much believe that as well. We're looking forward to a good 2022.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's jump straight into this and talk about real estate here in Costa Rica. I've actually been on the road for quite a few days here up in the Guanacaste area, kind of all over. And, you know, things appear to be going pretty well in real estate as well. But I mean, in your opinion, Mark, because again, you've got a ton of experience and I'm sure you see a lot of stuff, where do you believe the real estate market in Costa Rica is at the moment?
Well, that's an interesting question. It would take me longer than we have today to really delve into that question and answer it in a concise manner. What I can tell you is that our inquiry level through various websites I'm involved with is through the roof. As you well know, the last 12 months, COVID has affected the real estate business around the world. But we're finding here that the market has been very resilient. It's a good time to buy now if you're buying anything over $500,000. There have been historically over the last 2 or 3 years a lot of overpriced properties from $500 $1 million plus in particular. If you people out there got more than $1 million to spend and you want to get it away from the IRS revenue, Canada, inland revenue, whatever, now's the time to buy something here because those values have become better and better value as we've got through this year. The lower price properties, funnily enough, have been very, very, very resilient. Things under 250,000, whether it's in the Central Valley area or at the beaches, have been quite resilient, funnily enough. Perhaps a little later in a few minutes, we'll go into some of the different areas for those of you who aren't aware of the differences between the beach areas and the Central Valley.
Okay. I mean, where do you think then, I mean, you mentioned it's kind of being resilient, but do you think there's an area of Costa Rica or any particular type of property that's overheated today with regards to kind of its pricing?
Overheated? Well, I think it's an opinion that I've seen based on facts. In reality, it's not just an opinion. There's been a lot of overbuilding in apartments in certain parts of the city, and also in particularly in commercial property, which is a kind of bizarre thing. Commercial property in Costa Rica, it's they keep building these malls and strip malls and new office buildings. There's hundreds of thousands of square feet coming online this year around the Central Valley area, around San Jose. Quite frankly, I don't know who's going to rent it all, but
yeah,
those are the overheated parts of the market. Certainly, commercial and apartment buildings, high-rise apartment buildings, which are a relatively new concept here. Again, for those listeners or people watching that don't know the country well, high-rise apartment buildings have really only come to a fore in the last 10 to 12 years. Before that, there were 2 or 3 or 4 buildings scattered around the city. There were a few 10, 12 stories, but now we're getting 40, 50-story buildings around La Sabana. And I think we're reaching a saturation point on some of those around Romasur, the area that you'll probably know, Richard.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's every week I, go down to the Hermosa, Savannah, or San Jose area. There's a new tower being built there, so it's pretty crazy. I mean, I suppose as long as the banks keep lending to people, and hopefully we won't have an 08, 09 down here. But I mean, as long as the banks keep loaning out here, and it's insane, of course, interest rates of anywhere from 7 to 9% here.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of young professionals with money here. The banks are willing to lend, and but yeah, I do agree with you. I think that's overheated. Commercial property as well, because again, I mean, not everywhere can become a WeWork, right?
Absolutely correct. I mean, and now you broach that subject. That's an area of the market that is going to become go through the roof. We believe here, where my office is in the end of this year in 2022. Actually, just tomorrow morning, I have 3 investors coming in from Los Angeles. It's the same group, three people who are buying some development properties along the Pacific area of the country with a particular view to building homes suitable for nomads, digital nomads. That's becoming very big. We're about to sign a contract with a colleague of yours, Tim Parson at Italam, who's going to do the internet satellite deal for us at Los Delfines over at Playa Tambor. Fast, reliable internet is now available by satellite, so it's becoming more and more feasible for these developers to be done in a manner which people will want to live in them. COVID, as we all know, has affected everybody over the last 12 months, and as I'm sure you're aware, this has simply accelerated a trend that was in the works anyway. Working from home, working remotely from different parts of the world. You don't have to be in the office all the time. And what the last 12 months has shown us, and a lot of major corporations, is they don't need 100,000 square feet in the middle of Toronto or Miami or Los Angeles or London or whatever. They can have 1 or 2,000 square feet, and everyone's working at home, and they're still producing. So yeah. This is a part of the market that I'm very excited about. The government is about to sign into law special visas for these nomads. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure you've had some people asking you about that as well, right?
Yeah, we actually had 2 previous podcasts, one with actually Brandon James, who is head of sourcing for Outside, which is a digital nomad membership organization.
Oh,
they have a place down in Santa Teresa, and they're looking to add more. And also Christina Guieri, she's actually a lawyer. So she's actually hot on the digital nomad application process out there. So, I mean, everything's pointing that way. And I saw again an interview the other day between, I think it was with Benavides and Rolando Campos. Rolando is of Swiss Travel. Benavides is a diputado here, or a congressman, I think we call them, for listeners in the States, or MPs in the UK. Where they're trying very heavy to push it through. So I think it'll get through, as you mentioned there. And I think it comes back to that concept that you were mentioning there about internet. I mean, we use Tim's internet and Telem at the villa that we have, the hotel that we developed. And I mean, it's spectacular. I mean, as soon as you get fiber optic in, it's a game changer. And I know digital nomads, it must have high speed, either fiber optic or to an extent satellite internet in some areas of Costa Rica, because they're going to need to work.
Yeah. It can't be intermittent internet that will go off and on from time to time, which again, for the viewers who may not be aware of the ins and outs of Costa Rica, sometimes in the more remote areas, it can be problematic. But again, with this company, I tell them that we're working with, which Richard just mentioned, that problem's eliminated now. I'm sure everybody's aware of Elon Musk and what he's up to with all the satellites he's launching. So we really are entering into a new age where some properties and beach development areas have become more valuable over the last 12 months, strangely enough, because the word is getting out that these companies are available to give internet to certain areas. Before, I've had $10-20 million land deals fall through because there was no internet connectivity for them. within the foreseeable future, and that's something that you just can't get away from anymore. I mean, internet, as we all know, people your age were you've not known any different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so
I
old.
remember dial-up. I remember dial-up, dude. I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that sound.
Well, I remember when there was no internet. So,
I
get your
remember
head
that
around
too.
that one for a minute. Get your head around that for a minute. But now, a piece of land, literally in the middle of nowhere, can have some real value because of internet, satellite internet. It's really bizarre. It's even more important than water.
Yeah.
I mean, so. We really are living in a time where people are going to make fortunes flipping these properties. I'm telling you, I've already got a couple of options down myself. So
I agree with you. I think it's, I mean, this is, COVID's really sped up a lot of things that were already happening. And the digital nomad thing is just sped up really quickly. I mean, I've always, I say dreamed about, working from the south of France part of the time, and then part of the time here in Costa Rica. Easier said than done with young kids, of course.
Well, that's right. If you've got those of you that may be watching with young families, it's I suppose it's a little more difficult. But what we're finding is this one particular project I'm working at, Los Delfines around Playa Tambor. You'll find that the schools will spring up automatically as well, because they can do the online homeschooling as well.
Yep.
Now, that might not be everybody's cup of tea to homeschool the kids. It certainly wouldn't be mine, but you can do it now. Before you just couldn't. You needed you needed a residential boarding school, or you needed good schools close by. Which, again, for those of you watching, the best schools are normally available around the Central Valley. That's just a simple fact. There are some scattered around the beach areas, but most of the good ones are all around San Jose and the Central Valley area.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at right now with that.
Okay. Well, I mean, you mentioned earlier about land development. Like on this podcast, we've never really talked about land development before. We've spoken to realtors, we've spoken to some hoteliers, but we've never really talked about land development, which I suppose theoretically, and feel free to tell me that I'm wrong, is taking a raw piece of land and developing it into something, whether that be housing, tourism project, etc.
Well, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's not brain surgery. It's a relatively it can be a little bit more complicated here, depending on if somebody's watching this and thinking down of coming down, investing, get maybe a developer back in Toronto or Vancouver or London or Miami or wherever. The first thing, you need to be reasonably proficient in Spanish. I've seen many people fall over and they can come with a big pocketbook, a big checkbook, but if they're not reasonably proficient in the language, you shouldn't get involved in development. You can come and live here, but don't get involved in development unless you're reasonably proficient in the language. Land development is exactly what you said. Buying a piece of raw land with zero permits and then getting into the development stage of that land. Now, you should be aware that Costa Rica has a lot of very strict environmental laws. There are about 37 of them relating to land development. That may sound daunting, but really they're relatively simple steps. The strictest laws are actually at the beach, where they have there's all kinds of laws about the water table close to the ocean, mangroves, river estuaries, sea life, that type of thing. So you have to be very, very careful. If you bought a piece of land today and wanted to develop it, and it was raw land with no permits, it's going to take you 24 to 30 months before you can put a shovel in the ground.
Wow.
It's 24 to 30 months, depending how much money you want to throw at it. Now, that in turn makes other pieces of land that already have the permits very valuable. So I know a number of people over the years who are just beginning to benefit from that now. They've bought a piece of land, they've got the permitting for X project, they've kept the permits alive. You have to renew them every year, 2 years. And but for a developer coming in, it's worth paying the extra money to start work tomorrow. Now, you may want to tweak those plans a little bit, maybe a different size of house, maybe a bit more offices, maybe this, maybe that, maybe the other. But I would certainly recommend to somebody who's coming in first time in Costa Rica, buy something that's got the permits already in place or almost in place. And you'll find the whole experience a little bit better. Unless you have the time to do it, if you've got time, then it's not a problem. If you want to have a quick turnaround, pay a bit more money and buy something that's almost permitted or preferably 100% permitted, and you can start work tomorrow morning.
Wow. When you say permitted, you mean that it's water permits, it has construction permits?
It has everything ready to go. It's got
Right.
the architectural plans ready, detail plans. It's got the mechanical. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. We lost each other for a second there. Don't worry. I'm not using Intelum Internet. There's Tim's going to owe us a few beers after this, Mark, I tell you.
Right. That's what well, after you tell him I did it.
I'll tell him that. He owes us a few beers.
All right. So, having the development permits is absolutely crucial. That's where we were at, right?
Yeah, we were just talking about the actual particular permits that you need, because again, if you take a raw piece of land, you've just bought a raw piece of land. You've got no idea whether it's got, does it have like municipal water? Does it have a registered well on it? I've never done it before, so I'm not really too sure. Like, do you need to get a MINAI approval study done and eco?
Well, the MINAI is one of the most critical ones. That's the environmental assessment. As I stated earlier, Costa Rica has some of some of the most strictest laws regarding development in terms of environmental impact issues. Now, those are the ones that take the longest, because I call them eco-Nazis. They can really slow you down. I don't know if you want to edit that, but you can call them eco-Nazis. You can call them, what else is it I call them? There's another phrase.
Eco-warriors.
Eco-warriors, tree huggers, whatever you want to call them.
Exactly.
I don't want to offend anyone.
No, it's not. This doesn't get edited, by the way, Mark, just so you know. So I'm sure you've edited, you've probably offended maybe 95%. No, I'm joking. Usually the listeners are pretty chilled, right?
Yeah. Anybody who wants to sue Isthmus Realty, SAR, here's where I am. All right. So, a little background on myself. I don't know if you're interested in.
Definitely.
For the people out there, I've lived here almost 33 years now. I've had my office in the same place for 24 years in the Hotel Barcelona San Jose Palacio. And, it's been my pleasure to be involved with the Barcelona people, the Los Delfines development over at Playa Tambor, which is one of the best placed developments for the next 3 to 4 years for those nomads we were talking about. We have some big plans for there over the next few years. So anyone out there listening, make a note of Los Delfines, because you're going to hear a lot about it over the next few years. I don't know what else I can tell you about development. The development around the San Jose area, if I had a choice of doing any development now, and I would buy a piece of land that was semi-permitted for houses from $150,000 to $200,000. I wouldn't go for the luxury developments at the moment.
Yeah.
I would go for, if I was a developer, I would buy 2 or 3 hectares. That's about 5 acres, 7 acres. And I would build a couple of hundred homes between $150,000 and $200,000 with a small garden.
Funny you say that, Mark, because the realtors are saying exactly the same thing, that's the exact same thing that they're missing.
Yeah, well, that's where the market is now. I mean, those middle-class people you talked about here, because again, traditionally, for those of you out there that maybe have not visited here too much, there is a massive pent-up demand of young people here. Just talking about the local market for a second, not just the market that we're involved in, which is indirectly affected by the local market. I work mostly with foreign buyers, foreign investors, foreign developers, commercial hotel buyers, etc. But the local market does have a knock-on effect for the prices in our market as well. So traditionally here, a lot of people will live at home a lot longer than perhaps the people listening on this podcast will be used to. You know, it's not unusual to find 35-year-old lawyers living at home with their parents.
Yep.
That's just how it is in Latin communities. That's not something new that we discovered here. It's just how it is. So, but slowly but surely, they're finding their independence a little bit younger. Maybe they're leaving the home at 30 now, or 28, which by our standards is still a little later, you know. People like you and me who probably left home at 24, 25, or before that even, you know, in my case. But so that's driving the market in that $150,000 to $200,000 range, because and even with the mortgages at ridiculous rates. I mean, there's 7-8% mortgages. I mean, are absurd. My sister just renewed a mortgage just north of London at 1.6%.
Yeah, it's insane.
You know, so it is insane. I know someone who renewed one in Madrid a while ago at under 1%. You know.
Yeah.
But here, like you say, 7-8%. And the secondary mortgage market, there's a private mortgage market here that people are paying 14-15% for mortgages. Why are they doing that? I can hear people saying out there, because the banks here tend to be very slow in processing these 7-8% loans. It can take somebody, even if they're qualified and they've got no credit problems, it can take them 3-4 months to get a simple mortgage approval at a lot of the banks. So a secondary mortgage market sprang up where people give you the loan in a week or less, a matter of days sometimes, but you got to pay 14-15%.
Yeah.
Plus closing costs, which I find absurd. The interest rates here are killer.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watching this, do not even consider getting financing down here. Get financing back home.
A lot of them probably won't be able to, because again, they're foreigners coming in, so won't be able to get it. I mean, I think back in 07, 08, it was possible, but nowadays, you know, they've really closed the doors to that. But I think that, going back to your point of, if you have those houses from 150 to 200,000, even because the majority of foreigners are cash buyers, they could come in and potentially cash buy that much easier than a $500,000 condo.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, at Los Delfines, Golf and Country Club over there on Playa Tambor, anybody who wants to have a look at that, just go to delfines.com and you'll see, I mean, in the last 18 months, we sold about 90 homes there, all to people from Toronto, from the Greater Toronto area, GTA, we call it. And every single one was a cash buyer.
Yep.
Middle class people, policemen, firemen, nurses, in some cases married to each other, so they were well qualified to do it. Yeah. And we strongly encourage them, become a cash buyer, and you'll get a little bit of a better deal as well.
Yeah, you will.
You know, don't try and finance here. It's absurd, because the banks will say they do, but they don't.
Yeah, they do.
They mess you around for 3 months, and then you don't get it anyway. And it's very, very expensive. So don't do it. Either bring cash, or just remortgage back home, and you get a much better rate and become a cash buyer here. You get a better deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the good thing about, property prices, we've talked about this numerous times on the podcast, is property prices here in Costa Rica are pretty steady as well. I mean, you're not going to, even in 08, 09, they didn't see that much of a decline, in property prices. It's been pretty steady.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Richard. Again, historically, over my time here, we don't tend to have the massive ups and downs. Now, okay, the last 12 months has been, very, very steady, let me call it. But, the prices haven't dropped through the floor.
No.
That's just a simple fact. Now, why is that? I mean, but again, if you look at cities like Toronto and countries like England, prices have actually gone up in those countries. I don't know if you're aware about it or not, but I follow the markets, and it's really bizarre why that would happen. So the prices haven't dropped here. They haven't gone up, apart from certain sectors of northwestern Guanacaste and one or two areas in the city where the prices have maintained themselves very well, particularly like Corridabat, Escazú, and Santa Ana. They'll always be popular.
Yeah.
Because there's a good demand there, and the level of services, as you know, are very good, close to hospitals, schools, services, malls, all that type of thing. And I don't see the prices going through a trapdoor anytime soon.
I don't either.
Again, our website traffic is through the roof. We think once people have started to travel again, they're still a little scared of traveling. I talk to people a lot on Zoom, and they're not quite comfortable about getting on an aeroplane yet. But slowly but surely that's changing. I mean, you're telling me in your travel business, you're seeing an improvement, right?
Yeah, we typically see stuff like, 6 months before stuff happens, and things have been improving. I mean, March, year on year, we've probably got about 40% of visitors what we had, past year, but sales are up, probably around about 50-55%. But again, the majority of stuff people are booking towards the end of 2021, start of 2022. People are looking to get a little bit more comfortable. So, I think that's probably going to have an impact on real estate demand as well, and also potentially pricing, because realtors are telling me is they don't have enough product. I spoke to Scott from Costa Rica Real Estate this morning. He was like, I don't have enough product. Becky from Blue Water Properties up there was like, I don't have enough product. Like, just no one has enough product at the moment.
Yeah, that kind of fits in. And, some people will be listening to this thinking, oh, it's another real estate salesman. He's going to say that. But, it really is that way, because the local population that I touched on earlier, they don't tend to move house much like we're used to doing in North America and Europe. You might get your first house, and 5 years later you get another slightly bigger one, and then you'll go up again as the values go up and your family grows. Here, normally people, once they buy a house, that's pretty much it for 35 years.
I've been in this one 15 years.
Well, there you go.
I don't have a mortgage, so why would I leave?
Yeah.
Especially at 7-8%.
You're mortgage free. That's very good.
Yeah,
that's very good. Yeah, I am too right now, so that's always good. I mean, the mortgages here, they'll just kill you. I don't know how some people manage, honestly, and they're all variable rate. The banks can change them at 30 days notice. The banking system here is very different to what some of the listeners might be used to back home. So get ready for that if you do come and live here. But we do, come, anyone out there thinking about it, don't think about it. Come and do it. Come and have a look. Again, what we're finding is with the COVID situation, a lot of people have a lot of time to think. They've reassessed their lives a little bit. I don't need to be in the office anymore. When am I going to buy that house on the beach in Costa Rica or in Santa Ana in Costa Rica? When am I going to make this life change? My advice would be, don't think about it, do it.
Yeah.
Time flies, my friends.
I agree, dude. You blink and before you know it, I mean, it's done. Just
get it done, because before you know it, you'll be my age, and then it's too late.
just jumping back to development a bit. I'm sure that I know the answer to this, but can you make a lot of money in development here?
Oh, without question, without question, you can. And I've seen people do it, and I know people that are doing it right now. Again, this group is coming tomorrow. You need two things. Never, don't come underfinanced. Don't try and do it with not enough money. That's a big mistake people make. Get your money in place first. Make sure the land is properly permitted if you're buying a permitted project. In Latin America, not just in Costa Rica, the rule of law is caveat emptor, buyer beware. So make sure you have all your ducks lined up before you buy anything. Back in Canada, where I worked in real estate, and the UK and the United States, people will have to declare faults with the property, tell them what it is, what it is, what they can't do. Here, you don't have to do that. So you have to make sure you get a good attorney, which I'm sure Richard's company will refer you to. I'm sure they have good referrals for that. And be well financed. That's all. I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah.
And build what there is a demand for, not what you want to build. I've seen a number of people, in the not too distant past actually, that came, experienced developers. One springs to mind from Denver. I won't get into names or what he did, but back in Denver we do this. Back in Denver they like that. And it all became like a project that was just like you used to build in Denver, and but there wasn't a demand for that here.
Yeah.
And he lost a lot. He lost millions of dollars, and the houses are still for sale.
Well,
so build what the market demands, not what you want to build.
How would you work?
Get in the way.
How would you work out? I mean, again, it's easy for me, Mark, to figure out what the market demands because, we got a network of websites, from centralamerica.com to, Costa Rican vacations. Well, we can see the demand and have that data. But I mean, if somebody's out there that's like, you know what, I'm going to do land development in Costa Rica, they're not too sure what to develop. I mean, how would you go about, identifying where that gap in the market is or what the demand is?
Well, speak to realtors,
Yeah.
Quite frankly, find somebody you feel comfortable with and ask around, find out about them, and they'll tell you what's selling, or what will sell, more importantly, by the time you've built it. It's not rocket science. It takes just a little bit of market research and listening to the correct people. You shouldn't try to steer clear from get rich quick merchants, and because there's a lot of them around all of Latin America, just like there is back home. You've got to be careful.
Yeah.
Do your research, do your planning properly, and these days on internet, it's really quite simple to do the market research, and the companies that do this for you relatively inexpensively. Online that can tell you what foreign buyers like us might be interested in buying. I mean, we do it all the time. We work with a network of offices around North America and Canada principally that we share commissions with. Obviously, it costs us a bit of money, but they tell us what people might be interested in buying. We find that there are always exceptions, but normally, we don't try and make people spend their whole life savings on something on a house in Costa Rica. And most people don't want to anyway. You want to buy something that they can invite their friends to, spend some time in, maybe spend 6 months of the year. Not everyone comes to live here. A lot of people just have it as a vacation home, and they take great pleasure in giving the keys to their friend, to the family, to girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever the case may be. So that's a very popular type of buyer we've been finding over the last few years.
Well, this has been again. I mean, Mark, I could sit here for hours talking with you just because 33 years in the market. I'm sure you've seen a lot of stuff, dude. I mean, that's you've been through all the cycles here in Costa Rica.
Some good, some bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's great. As I say to people, it's good to have down cycles because, not everyone can handle it. So it gets out kind of the cowboys a little bit and only the serious guys are left.
Absolutely.
But, you've got to have the downs to remember what the ups were like. So, and I think we're on an up here on some things, commercial, as you mentioned there, and apartments, maybe a little bit down, but on the up, a lot of beach property.
Beach property for the nomads, digital nomads we were talking about. But it's not just the beach that's saying that. We're seeing some developments that are being planned right now and well into planning that around the Central Valley area, because I mean you can come and be a nomad, but not everybody wants to be at the beach. It's not for everyone. The beach is great for. I mean, just personally, it's great for a while, but it's hot all the time. Sometimes it's a little cooler up here where me and you are sitting right now. For those of you that don't know, the Central Valley area is up at about 1,000 meters on average. So we're at about 4,000 feet above sea level. So it's just a little bit cooler, which is why the Spanish conquistadors originally came to live here. They asked the Indians to take them to a place that was a little cooler. So it's not just the beaches where we're seeing that. We're also seeing it just outside San Jose in some areas. Not downtown San Jose, which is perhaps not one of the prettiest cities in the world, but certainly the outskirts of San Jose. Once you get 6 or 7 kilometers out of San Jose, it's a different place altogether, as you well know, Richard. So, we're seeing some good signs of that.
Well, Mark, my last question for you that I like to ask everyone: if you inherited $500,000 and had to invest it in a business or in real estate in Costa Rica, what would you do with it and why?
That's a very interesting question. Let me give you a couple of thoughts about that.
I'm sure our listeners would be very, very interested to hear from you.
I'm not going to tell you what. Are you going to edit this, right?
No, I'm not. This goes out exactly as it goes, dude.
Going out loud. No, seriously though, I would buy, if I was going to spend $500,000 on a business right now, I would buy a piece of land on the west side of San Jose and begin to subdivide it into smaller lots. Now, I wouldn't even do any type of building on it. Just simply subdivide it into 7 or 8 smaller lots, and then either sit on it or sell them off. That way, you don't need to invest too much capital in it, and the people who buy the lots can build whatever they want. You don't have to get involved in it. That's what I would do. I'd buy a couple of acres on the west side and subdivide it into 6 or 7, 8 lots, something like that.
What do you think about doing that somewhere at the beach? Because I think a lot of people, a lot of the listeners here are typically more accustomed to be focusing on the beach, just because, again, usually they're from North America or from Europe. But I mean, would you suggest on doing something out that at the beach? Because I know quite a few people that have done it.
Yes, you can do that. Absolutely. It depends on your level of patience and where it is. Yes, you can do it at the beach. My recommendation would be to buy a subdevelopment parcel within an existing beach condominium. Whether it's somewhere, I don't know, like Hacienda Pinilla or Delfines or whatever, where all the environmental work has already been done. You've got water. In some cases, there's a golf course already there. So you'll buy 5 or 6 acres from them, and you can subdivide it or cut 2 or 3 homes on it, whatever you want to do with it. It just takes the pain away. Because raw land is time consuming if you don't have the permits. And water is becoming a scarcer commodity. Internet is becoming less relevant because you can get it anywhere now, as we discussed earlier. So all you got to do is go through iTalent to get that.
I think the water thing that you mentioned there is probably, the number one thing at the moment, just because, again, a lot of the beach areas do have what they call asadas, which is kind of municipal water, but otherwise don't. They might have a well, but it's not registered. I mean, that's kind of the more complicated part of, buying land and development here in Costa Rica.
You've got to have water or it's useless. I mean, I've had some unfortunate situations with people that before I knew them, of course, but the bought land and it had a well. They could see the physical well, but it wasn't registered, and they didn't bother to check that. So,
And how easy is it to register a well here? Do you know?
I do know, actually, because I've had a few people that have been going through that process. Again, it's you have to do it through MINI. It's normally not that, if you've got an existing well, it won't be that problematic, but it is about a 7 to 8, 9 month process to get it done properly.
Wow.
They'll come and inspect it. They'll come, there's a charge for them to do this. They do the studies on it. They test the water. They check which water table it's coming from, whether it'll be pulling too much water out from the water table where it's situated. But it's just a time-consuming process.
Yeah,
if it's there, you will get it, but it takes time.
As with most things in Costa Rica.
Don't absolutely. Look what it's done for me. I mean, I'm only 25. And look at me. No, but seriously, it just do things properly. It take time. It's going to be slower than it is back in Texas or Miami or Toronto or whatever you might be from, but it's just how it is,
Yeah.
and hire good professionals, get good advice. It's worth every penny.
I agree.
That's what I can tell you.
Well, Mark, you've been amazing. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk with me, and hopefully I'm sure that the listeners will have a bunch of questions. So I'm going to put all your contact details in the description, so anyone that wants to reach out, that they can do. And I appreciate your time, buddy.
Okay, good to see you again, Richard. Good luck with the travel business, and all you people out there in podcast land, come and see me. We're here to help. Okay.
Have a good one.
Bye.